Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are going to start off with this little frame set here that I purchased from AliExpress, and it's kind of the largest frame that cuts out everything. I am placing it right in the middle of a piece of black paper, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now I'm going to put it in the middle here because I'm going to kind of end up using all parts of this die cut here just to be efficient. I used a little bit of post-it note tape to hold it down, just some low-tack tape, anything will work fine. And then I have this paper pack here that I actually had one of my most lovely subscribers send me. And I was looking at this paper pack and it's so nice and bright. And so this is kind of what gave me the inspiration for this card. So I'm going to cut down this piece just to be a little bit smaller than the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of black paper that I started with. So you can see that it's just going to have a tiny wee border. Then I have this little kind of leaf set and these two feathers. Now the feathers are a set and the little leaves are a set. I got these from Ali as well. There is a lot in this video that I will try and link below. If I forget something, just give me a gentle reminder and I will do my best to make sure I've got it there. Then I have this little bit of orange paper here that kind of matched. Now it is a pattern piece of paper, but it matched, the oranges matched the orange that is in the striped piece. So that just happened to be what I had. So I'm going to quickly put together these cards. This is quickly card making at its finest. I find myself often just trying to get gorgeous quick cards because I don't have a lot of time at one time. So I'm just adhering everything down flat, using liquid glue so that I can move it around a little bit. And then I have this black frame that I cut out at the very beginning, and I've only added glue to the top half because I wasn't sure yet how I wanted the bottom of the bunch to be, kind of thing. I have this black and white twine here, which is also from AliExpress, and that one of those feathers is just a little bit tall for my liking, so I'm actually going to take the scissors to it and kind of just cut it down a wee bit, cut some of the feathers off so that it makes it just a little bit shorter. You can't tell at all, it just looks as though that was the way that it came. So that is much better, it fits in the frame much better. So I've kind of got the two black feathers and I'm going to add some foam squares. These are also from AliExpress. Just cut them in half and I'm going to add, this will kind of be a little bit of dimension to the whole bunch, so to speak. So you can see I've got some foam squares on there. I actually ended up having to take a couple off the second kind of curved feather because obviously it was going to sit on top here. So you can see me kind of rip away these couple, but that's okay. Takes a little bit of black paper, but no one will see that. And then I'm just going to start kind of poking in all of these little, I'm going to call them leaves, but that's probably a little bit of a stretch. They're foliage, maybe, leaves of foliage. Just sort of poke them in. I did die cut a couple of that one that I'm holding at the moment, just because I thought I might need to fill out the little bouquet a little bit more, but it ends up being pretty good. And then I'm just going to start kind of adding in all of this little foliage. You really want to use a glue that is going to dry matte here. Now you'll be able to see in some of these photos at the end that you can see some big white glue splotches. You really want to use a glue that dries absolutely matte clear for this one. So I used the Nuvo glue this time round, and I found that to be pretty good. So yeah, I will keep using that one. I'm enjoying this one at the moment. And then I just tied a wee bow with that twine that I showed earlier, and I'm just going to stick the bow right there in the middle. As I said, quickly card making. These are sweet and simple cards. I didn't have any sentiment on this one, so that I can kind of give it for any occasion, or I can add one later, I guess, if need be. But that is card number 1 in this little video today. I'm actually going to show you another one. And I have these infinity dies from Hero Arts, obviously rectangles. And I have taken 4 of them out to create part of my next card. I have these kind of smaller ones here. Now these are kind of like the step right beside each other. So these two are the next largest for each of them. So they are going to create a really small, thin border. I could have probably die cut them at the same time, but it just didn't seem super easy. So I ended up cutting them at different times. If you organize, you could do it together. So you can see I've got one frame there, and then I'm going to create the next frame here just out of the inside piece, and I have my two little frames sorted. Next up, I have this background die. Again, this is from Ali, and I'll try and link it down below. It is absolutely beautiful, and this was definitely the inspiration for this card. And I am going to take the largest of those 4 dies that I just used before and the smallest of the 4 dies that I just used before. So I'm just undoing it from before, and I am going to create kind of like another big frame out of this background die. So I hope this isn't confusing, and I hope I'm not confusing you, but anyway, you'll see in the end. So anyway, I'm going to die cut that, and it will create a frame out of that pattern, so to speak. You can see that piece on the left as well. The inside piece is super pretty, and I actually end up using that for another project later on, a different day. So you can see that this is creating my 2 little frames around that piece. So I'm going to add some liquid glue, just a little bit. This is the Gina K Connect glue, which I really do like. Personally, I find it quite expensive for what it is, but I mean the glue is good, and that's the main thing, I guess. But anyway, so you can see this is kind of delicate, but fairly easy. I must say I definitely didn't have any problems putting it all together. Because I used dyes, it was all, pretty straightforward. Everything fit really well. So anyway, this was the goal, to create this really pretty frame. And I'm saying, yep, I'll keep that piece for another time. So frame is made. Let's move on to the rest of it. I have these couple of, again, I'm going to call them foliage dies. They could also be little kind of twigs with berries, which I have die cut out of the black. And now I'm going to stamp the little sentiment, which says, "Feel better soon." I always stamp my sentiments a couple of times because I pretty much always mark one up. Pretty much always. Anyway, I am going to be using the same striped pattern piece of paper. In that paper pack there was like maybe 4 or 5 pieces of the same pattern, so it really did enable me to have a good go at making lots of cards that might go in a set. So I'm just going to add that piece down as the background piece, so that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. Then my lovely frame, which I'm going to add flat again. I didn't have the time, effort, energy, or anything to want to put foam behind this, so that's why it's going down flat. And you probably don't need as much glue as I've added here. I've really gone to town, but that's okay. And added that down and just kind of put my hands on it so it sits nice and flat. But this glue does grab really nice and fast, so that's always good. I am going to I'm kind of figuring out how I want this to go, but I'm going to tie the same little bow with the same twine that I used in the first card. As I said, these cards are super similar. They are really based on kind of exactly the same layout, I guess. I'm just cutting off some extra little pieces of these black foliage, just so that they kind of fit together a little bit nicer, that they don't bunch too much. And again, I'm just going to add a tiny wee bit of glue behind some, but not all of the little branches on this, because some of it will sit up a little bit and some of it will sit kind of a little bit flatter. So as I said, I'm just going to add a little bit of glue, and again, looking at this now, you probably don't need that much, but that's okay. And it is important to kind of have one that you can trust will dry nice and clear, and not shiny if that's what you want. So just making sure it's all kind of sitting right, add a little another dab of glue, and that's where my little bow is going to sit. These cards come together super fast once you've got all these things die cut, and in fact on both cards there's only that tiny wee stamp sentiment is the only stamp that I use on either of these. So I have this Feel Better Soon. I get all my double-sided foam in all sorts of shapes and sizes. I get it all from Ali, so you just saw me cut up a little bit there. And I'm making sure this little sentiment strip fits exactly in between the frame, popped up on foam, and I'm nearly all done, but I am going to add some clear Morning Dew Nuvo drops to the little sort of berry part maybe, or the end of the branches. And this will actually kind of dry clear. Now this looks really gorgeous when it was all dried. And it does really add a nice layer of dimension to the card, because these little drops you'll kind of be able to see here are kind of quite 3D-ish. They're really beautiful. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed these two cards in my quickly card making series, and hopefully I will see you next time. Thank you so much, everybody. I will see you. Bye.